I go to this meeting and I leave that meeting with the person saying, come back to us with a proposal to spend up to $1 million, but not just for a new office space, but when he said, we want the center to have a new location, and I said, that feels great.
Hey, my name is Margaret Wong. I'm absolutely honored to be able to have a conversation today with Miss Phyllis Harris. I've long respected her. When we had a conversation earlier today to prepare for this conversation, she reminded me that she has been with the community for 14 years. I'm like, what? It has been 14. I remember the day she first started. I remember when she was in Planned Parenthood. She's a Clevelander, a true Clevelander at heart. So it's just such an amazing honor for me to be able to speak with her, to learn from her what's in the same-sex community and what's going on in the world. And she heads the whole organization. Is difficult because, as you know, it's not a place where we can do a lot of fundraising. We're always struggling for funds, for funding, especially in today's world when our federal government is cutting us down. Ms. Harris.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
So how did you learn about all these fundraising, organizational charts, and internal, external management style?
Sure. I got my start in nonprofits at the Cleveland Rape Crisis Center. And I would say my first learning and understanding of the sector came from having a great executive director. Her name is Mary Bridget, and I don't know how many years she worked for the Rape Crisis Center, but I worked there 8 years under her leadership, little under 8 years under her leadership, where she really supported us in learning about what we were doing, and I was on programs, so that was program development, program implementation, program evaluation. So I knew stuff about nonprofit programs. And as I continue to grow in my own professional development and understand and grow up to finish my higher education, I had gone to Baldwin Wallace as an adult learner. I had already had a kid, partnered. I got an undergraduate in communications, and while I had the momentum, I wanted to get my graduate degree. And so everyone was talking about social work, and I was like, I can't see myself as a social worker, you know. And I picked up a brochure, and it was a brochure that gave information about the program at the Mandel Center. So I have a master's in nonprofit organizations from CASE.
Oh.
There, I learned I'm working in the sector, right? I'm working at the Rape Crisis Center. By this time, I'm in the program at CASE. I'm working for Big Brothers Big Sisters, and so I have great case studies. I'm there, and I'm great at program development. I'm great at team building, right? And then I knew I needed to be better at fundraising because I didn't get a job that I wanted. And the job was I served as interim president and CEO at Big Brothers Big Sisters for almost a year and a half. And there, during the search for Margaret Mitchell, who's phenomenal, right? I was part of bringing her to Cleveland. And about a week after she got there, I knew we were going to be okay. I left, and I went and I got some more training, and that was through a position at the Cleveland Site Center, where I served as the director of a major capital campaign that essentially got cut along with my team during the economic downturn. So that was a really test of my faith.
And what year was that?
This was 2009.
Okay.
Right? So the housing bubble, people were, every day on NPR, there's a story about someone looking for work, a professional out of work. I was one of them. Got back to work at Planned Parenthood. Knew that the work that I was doing wasn't extending my development as a nonprofit executive. So I joined boards, right? I joined the then Community Shares Board because I'd never given money away. I joined Spaces Gallery because I'd never worked for a nonprofit that was an arts organization. It was always health and human services, which I love, but I wanted a different perspective. While I was doing that, I was learning about those organizations and how they function. I was rubbing shoulders with other nonprofit leaders, right, and getting to know them and learning from them. And then I got asked to join the board of the center. And I went there, said no twice. I said, I don't have any money.
Right.
Boards are expensive,
Right.
and they said, you have something else to offer. That became a January board meeting, January 2012 board meeting, that then turned into my being hired as the executive director in April of that year. And what I would say is, I'm not here because I'm a lesbian. I've been a lesbian. I'm here because I know that I could bring all of this knowledge that I've gained from Mary Bridget, my executive directors, Mike Mays, my president CEO of Big Brothers Big Sister, Mike over at Cleveland Site Center, everything that I've learned from them and the other people that I've worked with, the grants person, so I know about deliverables and making sure that that happens, and bring it to the center. And I started doing it, and it was painful at first because people were like, what are you talking about? Who are you? The board was very hands-on because they worked hard to have the organization survive at that point. We were in survival mode when I got there. And now we get to thrive just a bit. And we get to fight the good fight and get support from our allies. And I always tell people, yes, the LGBTQ community, there's a few of us. There's not a whole bunch. But we have so many allies. I have to deal with straight people all the time. They're in my family. They're in, most people's workplace at some point or another if you're LGBTQ. And so how do we amplify the support that we get from allies? How do we tell allies we want to engage? So this is what we were also talking about earlier, right? We were talking about the fact that every year since I've worked there, you've sent a letter to me.
Wow.
That's what allies do. Because we never had to talk to each other when we would see each other, if we didn't see each other, because we're both busy. But I knew that this organization cared about who we were, how we were doing, enough to every year to say, hey, we see you. So I'm just thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled to talk about Nonprofit Cleveland, the LGBT Community Center. World AIDS Day just happened. We invite in our center guests, have memories of ACT UP and when this community had to fight back against our federal government and to get our local government engaged in the fight around HIV awareness and services. I used to work for the task force. People don't know that.
I didn't know
yes.
that. Yes.
When I was in 95, I got hired at the Cleveland Rape Crisis Center, and they were on 30th and Euclid across the street from each other. So it's the Rape Crisis Center and the AIDS Task Force right across the street from each other. I was 30 hours a week at the Cleveland Rape Crisis Center and 20 hours a week at the AIDS Task Force.
Oh, but those of you who are listening to us, this girl or lady, it's amazing. We have known each other. I reminded her, I've known her for so long, and she reminded me that we've known each other for so long. And I don't know if you remember, years and years ago, we have the Rena Blumbergs, in the 80s and 90s, Jane Campbell. We would go to parties. We're always together, the whole group, the 20, 30 of us, and then it expanded to 50, 60. We supported each other, but through the years we aged, we have children, we married, and in those days we really don't identify each other as, oh, I'm a lesbian, I'm gay, I'm this, I'm that. It's just, that's right.
Yeah,
we're just
supporting women.
That's right, supporting women. So it was never as fractured as now. So it's so wonderful to see another Clevelander who really believes in our city, our town, and to bring us all together. Another question I want to ask you is, how did you envision 14 years ago when you started, and how much of your vision have been realized now? And going forward, what do you want to do with this community?
Yeah, that's a great question. I remember dropping down into the basement where we were located before, and I started in April, and by that December, I knew that we might have a great opportunity. And that's when a lot of what I learned about how nonprofits operated kicked in. And so it started with the vision of coming there and opening things up, like taking the locks off the doors and the cameras off, the buzzer that would get in, and making sure that there was free coffee, so that if people visited, they know that they could be there because there was coffee. So if there's coffee, you can stay for a while. And so really trying to impact the organizational culture and rhythm in a way that people felt affirmed and welcomed. We're in a basement, there were no windows, so how do you make it light? So that was the initial vision. One of the first staff meetings that I had, at that time there were only 3 staff, I took cookies, and they looked like, why are you bringing cookies? I'm like, oh, it's food. We're gonna break bread together, and like culturally, this is how you do it. So the vision was simply that. By December of that year, I get a phone call that changes our lives and the lives of many LGBTQ people in Northeast Ohio. And that is someone who wanted to invest in the center. And they wanted to know why we didn't. We had had a plan to move, to upgrade a bit, and then we decided not to because we didn't have enough money, frankly. By the time I got there as a full-time ED, it didn't make sense. And so they wanted to know why. I'm Googling their names as they're asking them, how do I prepare for the meeting, And their vision at that point was that the center would have a new location, right? And I go to this meeting. It's a long story, but we'd have to do that. It'd take hours. I go to this meeting, and I leave that meeting with the person saying, come back to us with a proposal to spend up to $1 million, but not just for a new office space. But when he said, we want the center to have a new location, and I said, that feels great, and that would be wonderful, but I want to tell you that wouldn't be a good investment, and here's why. That was really hard to do, but I was ready for it. And I said, I don't have an office manager. We don't have a strategic plan. So this is where all of that learning from my education, we need a strategic plan for this organization. We need an office manager, so someone answer the phones when people call. Right. We need all of these things in order for it to be the vision that you want in terms of us having a new space, and the vision that I was then creating, right? That we are a fully operational, legally compliant nonprofit organization in Cleveland. So that was the vision, and the collision of those two ideas coming together, and then going to my board and saying, how do we do this? My board said, we can do this, but we won't do it without having an endowment established. So we got some more good favor and some funding. And so the vision has been to grow the organization into a sustainable, functional, affirming, nonprofit organization, and that supports LGBTQ people in Greater Cleveland and Northeast Ohio. Our vision.
It's amazing how well you're doing with all those big companies supporting you, because especially this year with this new president. I didn't expect, and our team didn't expect, with this kind of support that you're getting. It's amazing. Yeah,
it's really, some of it is, we were smart in that we didn't have very much federal funding. As a smaller nonprofit, getting federal funding feels good at first because it's usually a lot of money, but there's a lot of administrative oversight that has to happen that most smaller nonprofits can't afford to hire the person to manage. And so we get those, you swell, and then the rules change, or you don't get the reports in, and then you have to lay folks off. I've never wanted to do that. So we had very little federal funding, so we weren't impacted that way. But we were impacted in terms of the psychological and real safety that LGBTQ people have, immigrants, trans people, non-binary folks with HIV, living with HIV, and other challenges. And so truly, I feel like this is a bringing that vision together of a well-functioning organization that would last now and into the future. We celebrated 50 years. Gosh, that's huge.
Huge. Yes.
That's huge. So what we're looking at in the future is to be a major player in the LGBTQ ecosystem here in Cleveland. I get to say ecosystem here now. When I first started, there were some, Plexus was around. I actually am a founding board member of Plexus. People don't know that. I've been around. I'm an OG, for a long time. But being a leading LGBTQ serving organization that has existed for 50 years, one of the first established LGBT community centers in the nation, and that we are anchored. We are an established anchoring organization for our queer ecosystem in Northeast Ohio, is the vision for whoever has next, right? And I'll be here in Cleveland cheering part of the community, remaining I'm not gone. I'm not gone yet, but I plan to remain invested in the community. You can see I'm passionate about both the nonprofit sector and the LGBTQ community in Cleveland.
So what made you even have the security and the bravery to say, anytime I'm ready to start my next chapter of my life. I've done so much for this organization.
Yeah.
That I think that takes a lot of courage, because when you're on top, you don't want to
let go.
You want to keep going. Yeah.
I've always said relevance is fleeting, right? And I keep getting to these capstone opportunities, So one capstone was we have this new facility, right? Another before that, a capstone was like, we acquired the opportunity and privilege to produce our city's annual Pride event. That's huge. I could quit after that, I think,
but you did it.
But I did it, I get to these places and I go, this is really great. And I got really good at building a good team, and it took some time. And so I wasn't good at everything. I'm still not. Do you know what I mean? But I got good people around me.
You're so humble.
Thank you.
That's encouraging.
I got good people around me to be able to build, and I'm looking at the future for, you'll always see me write LGBTQ plus because I'm 60. My colleagues are queer, and I understand what queer means, and I had to learn that. I had to learn that means anyone who deviates from heteronormativity, and it could be considered queer. And so that shows up in all sorts of ways. And so that means being attentive, like my friend here, showing up in all the other places where queerness shows up. I'm 60, and I got a lot of energy left, but not for being out in the club and connecting with young people who have real concerns and real desires for being able to live and thrive in Cleveland as a queer person. But that's where I'm going to catch them, right? So that's for Who's Got Next. I feel like innovation, creativity, you can have it until you're 80. I'm going to have it until I'm 80. And I keep having this motion of moving forward. You know how the Q has that thing? For some reason, that cue, or even though it reminds me of energy and movement. And I think when I think about getting to 15 years at the LGBT Community Center of Greater Cleveland, I could stay for another 10. I could stay. I love the work. And if we really want it to be what it needs to be for Who's Got Next, for the next generations, let's look at it. I don't have to leave, right? But let's look at it. Let's prepare for it. And that's what the center is doing with our strategic plan process and with our succession planning process. So, and being out about it is really about the courage that I've always had to try to be authentic. When you meet with people, when I was first starting as a young professional, the advice was always be your authentic self. But I always felt I needed to hide. Even though I was out, I could be myself, but I couldn't really express myself the way that I truly am. And this is it. I want our community to thrive. I believe that we deserve to take up space. It is not enough that we have one community center. When I think about all of the neighborhood centers and rec centers all across the region, the center has one. The Cleveland has one, right? So we're expanding to the east side. We have some programming in Cleveland Heights. We have great partners, Cleveland Heights Libraries. Cleveland Heights Rec Center, Central Outreach. So we're really trying to expand in those ways. And again, younger, queer identified, non-binary, trans folks leading this is where it should be.
So when you first started, what was the annual budget, and now what is your annual budget, and what do you suspect your annual budget will be in the next 3 years?
In the next 3 years, right. So when I first started, our annual budget, our operating budget was $250,000. Now our budget is $3.5 million.
Boy.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Good for you.
Yes. And
Whoa.
we have an endowment at the Cleveland Foundation that we draw down 5% every year to ensure that we are keeping our building, our facilities operating at the highest level of performance. We are a LEED certified building. Our building is paid for. Yes.
How did you do that?
I got a $5 million gift.
Oh, you are
So
awesome.
so 2.3 million of that went into the acquiring the land, demolishing a building that was there, and constructing a new building. But the rest of the money went for the part that I'm so happy that our donor partnered with me on, and that is consultant for strategic plan, support for a staff position for program director for 3 years, for office manager for 3 years, for all of these things that helped us to build the infrastructure as we were building the building. So we came out of it going into COVID with a brand new building in June of 2019, opening a brand new building, and then closing in 2020, in February of 2020 because of COVID, right? But we were able to pivot. The team had bought in. Everybody took their tablets home. We got to work around our pivot. We opened up slowly again as the rest of the world and our, Cleveland opened up, and we got to work. And we could do that because we had this physical location where we could invite people in and we could expand our programming there first. And now we're really looking at, our partnerships for the outside. Yeah.
Without federal grants.
Without federal grants.
That's
In the future, we try to grow our budget by, 5-10% every year. We are in the quiet phase of a campaign currently. It is comprehensive, meaning our operating budget and some extra. We want to, our question to everyone, we just had a successful Giving Tuesday. If you were to give to the center, what would you want to support? And we have a lot to offer for you when you're, your philanthropic giving. I mean, we have a lot to offer. I want to appeal to allies, is there any allied programming that you think would be supportive because you want to get engaged with the center, this anchor organization in the Gordon Square Arts District that is stretching out to the east side in Cleveland Heights? Come on.
That's awesome.
That's what I tell people.
Look at you, so exciting.
Yeah.
From that girl I knew from way back.
And I was really quiet, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
You were
Yeah.
more quiet, but you
Yeah.
didn't change. You've always been like that.
Yeah.
And I never really identified you or thought of you as a lesbian. I don't know why. I just
Yeah.
never thought of it. In those days, we don't think of these
Right.
things. We are.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love that. I love, you see in my essence, and that's a part of who I am. A very, important part, but just one part. Yeah.
You're awesome.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I'm so honored and excited. And what do you think give you that energy, that growth, that excitement? It's
Yeah.
not just a juice or a drink.
Yeah. I think it's,
How do you do this? I need to learn this.
Yeah.
There are days it's like, oh my gosh, why am I even doing this?
I feel that I have, I think, there's something, I've always been the person who's kind of quiet, but I don't like, I like justice. I don't like injustice. And so you'll find that most of the organizations I've worked for, they're like, they have missions that are socially charged. I mean, I live at the intersection of a lot of spaces that people are oppressed, Black, lesbian, grew up single mom, who she had 2 kids by the time she was 19 and on her own. So I have stories of that. I went to Head Start off of St. Clair. I went to Cleveland Public Schools from kindergarten to 6th grade, went to St. Aloysius, and then my mother, who worked in a factory for 30 years, would tell me and my brother, she would say, I do this so you won't have to. And I didn't understand what that meant, but that meant so that you don't have to work in a factory, and we're proud of that work. She is a union woman, it helped us survive, as kids of a single mom in Cleveland, I was born in 65, my brother's 64, so imagine, right? So that's how I do it. She has determination, she has grit, she taught us the value of caring for each other, the earth. She taught us the value of inclusion in a way that only now I see, in terms of who was in our family and who our friends were and who we broke bread with. And so, and I tell people I'm St. Clair true. I got Cleveland grit. Right. Cleveland makes you want to, for me, seeing it more made me want to invest. And I'd love to have, big fish, little pond in Cleveland. I'd love to be able to leave a legacy of goodness.
Right.
And, care. I'd rather be known as that than someone who's mean and,
that's right. Obnoxious, nasty.
Yeah. Like, everybody likes a little recognition. I have an ego, but
right.
My mom taught me to be kind. I tell people all the time, I'm not nice, I'm kind.
That's right.
Yeah.
And how did you learn the lingos of social work? Because I'm listening to Plexus. I don't even know what that is. It's all embarrassing.
Yeah.
Do you go to seminars? Do you go to other nonprofit stuff?
I would tell you that. So I teach at Kent Adjunct, and I teach nonprofit leadership and nonprofit advocacy. About one semester a year, one or the other. And I learned it from just being in the sector and immersed in it. And, I always tell people, you will always find a very skilled social worker on my team. That is not me, but I'm smart enough to know to be connected to them. Wow. Because they have skill sets that I don't have. And they have interests around people and care for people in a way that is different than I have. So when I partner with social workers, right, I'm learning from them. We're a dynamic team together. Golnar Firasta, the person who's the managing director, has a dual degree in social work and nonprofit management. So together, we are a pretty dynamic team in terms of staying on top of trends, about what's new in trauma-informed care, what's new around best practices around building an affirming and welcoming space, or training folks around LGBTQ cultural competency. So it's just being immersed in these organizations like Plexus. There's the Buckeye Flame, which is the Ohio News, LGBT News magazine. There's Lake County LGBT services, Lorain County, Colors Counseling, Colors Youth Center, B. Riley. So you wouldn't know all of these, but many of these organizations, save Plexus and the center, came up in the last 10 years. So, and this is what I'm saying in terms of the center being a leading LGBTQ services organization, as a sustainable hub. We've made it 50 years, and we're not. It's not about just surviving, right? It's how do we make a sustainable model, including board leadership with innovation and connections and things like that, for the next 50. Because we're going to need them. I'm so happy.
I'm immersed. I'm like, what a girl. That's
I'm
awesome.
excited about what you do. Like we had a question. I'll be honest. We had a question. I got the privilege to present at the City Club. I had a question about our services for LGBTQ immigrants, and I what I had to say is we really rely on Margaret Wong and Associates. We rely on House of Transcendence, that organization, we rely on Resource Cleveland and the relationships that Golnar is on the board of that organization. Many of our team members are involved with House of Transcendent, and we're always looking for ways to partner because we're not the experts. We do have LGBT immigrants on staff who have their lived experience, but in terms of programming, currently we don't have anything at the center. We're great with referral. We do active referral in that when you go here, here's who you call. This is what you can expect when you see. This is what should happen. If you have any challenges, we have a resource navigator who will help you get to what you need to go.
That's awesome.
But I really did. Like we can't be it all, and we don't. If we have this strong ecosystem. If we continue to support one another in our growth and our sustainability, then we'll say, we don't have that at this location, but again, here's who you talk to, and this is what you can expect. And I think we can cover the bases together.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, thank you.
Yes.
Thanks. And if you would like to donate, can you tell us how people like me, if I want to donate, how could I do that?
Yes. Go to our website, www.lgbtcleveland.org. So that's lgbtcleveland.org. And you'll see all sorts of opportunities to donate. And you can also go on our website and see what your donation, how your donation makes an impact. You donate $50, you can get kids back and forth to programming at the center. We have kids programming for QU programming for young adults. I have to remind people that LGBTQ people get old. So our
right.
Rainbow Pioneers program is very active on the east side and the west side. And so there's all sorts of, again, if you were to donate, would it be for seniors? Would it be for youth? Would it be for, our trans and non-binary programming? Would it be to support our education? Because we need people to know about who we are and how to build workplaces where we're included. Are you interested in supporting Pride? That's a huge event where we celebrate every year. And so all on our website. Follow us on social media. We're on the Instagrams, on LinkedIn, Facebook.
And they are huge, and they're
Yes.
wonderful, they're beautiful.
Thank you.
Again, thanks so much for listening to us.
Thank you. Oh,
You were so good.
thank you. I'm so excited.